10 years ago, in the skies of Tokyo, an inverted castle appeared, much to the surprise of the people. At that moment, dungeons also manifested all over Japan, and people discovered that they had awakened their mana. Those who were gifted became known as mages, individuals capable of challenging dungeons to gain wealth and fame. A mage's talent is judged by the color of their mana. Normally, one shows aptitude for a single color, but on rare occasions, dual color wielders exist. For example, an extraordinary person named Kai is a dual color wielder of blue and red. Because of his immense power, Kai can stand smiling in front of a formidable demon. He wields his demon's lance and launches an attack that easily defeats the great demon, crushing it to the ground. Kai picks up the ruby stone emitted by the demon after its defeat. He then sees his older brother, Rei, walking past and throws the ruby at him, commanding him to pick it up. This ruthless boy is known as the Purple King and is now at level 89. He is one of the strongest mages in the world. Meanwhile, Rei is an incompetent mage with no aptitude, completely colorless, a rare condition in this world. Despite this, Rei refuses to give up on becoming a mage. He laughs off the embarrassment he receives from his younger brother and continues doing his job as a porter in his brother's party, collecting gems for them. Even then, he hopes to awaken a skill someday and believes he will become useful. The party continues exploring the dungeon and eventually reaches the boss room. One of them comments that it should be easy to defeat the boss, as the other demons so far have posed no threat. They enter the demon boss's lair with full confidence, only to stumble upon the mysterious god of time and space, Kronos, whose level remains unknown. Kai confidently smirks at the enemy, certain he can defeat Kronos. He unleashes his demon lance, while the god unsheathes his sword from a space portal and effortlessly neutralizes the attack with a single swift move. Kronos looks at him with eyes devoid of emotion, while Kai stares in disbelief at what just happened. Before he can react, Kronos annihilates him in the blink of an eye. His party members, along with Rei, are stunned, unable to process what just occurred. Rei trembles. His brother, the Great Purple King, was taken out in an instant. Kronos stands before them, exuding an intimidating presence that instills fear in the remaining party members. Two of them attempt to flee, afraid they'll be killed next. However, Kronos doesn't let them escape. He ends their lives instantly, just as he did to the Purple King. With all his comrades fallen, Rei collapses, consumed by fear. Kronos turns his attention to him and smirks, telling Rei that he is completely colorless, as if seeing straight into his soul. Rei clenches his fists, telling himself that he hasn't achieved anything yet and that he doesn't want to die now. He unsheathes his sword and bravely faces the undefeatable god. Kronos lets out a menacing laugh, mocking Rei for daring to fight despite being colorless. Rei shakes as he holds his sword up to the enemy, convincing himself that he can defeat Kronos. The god smiles mischievously and declares that he will test Rei. He unleashes an attack that immediately incapacitates him. Then, the god mockingly apologizes and rewinds time, restoring Rei's arm, as if nothing had happened. Rei is stunned by how quickly he was healed. Before he can fully process what's happening, Kronos conjures a ball of fire and throws it at him. The god tells Rei he is giving him time to think and then engulfs him in hellfire, savoring the torment. Thinking fast, Rei spots the sword Kronos had used. He grabs it from the ground and braves the hellfire. As his body begins to melt and disintegrate, Kronos watches with amusement, but to his utter shock, Rei reaches him and stabs him through the heart, fatally wounding the god. Rei feels a surge of pride. He managed to land a hit. But to his dismay, Kronos uses his rewind skill again, escaping death. Kronos laughs at Rei's hopelessness, treating him as nothing more than a form of entertainment. In despair, Rei falls to his knees, ready to give up, thinking he will die like a loser. Just then, a system message appears, saying that the he-god of time and space has released the seal on the black skill, and that Rei have acquired an extra skill, called Skill Drain, which makes him successfully stole the skill. Rewind. Rei and Kronos are both stunned by the revelation. Wasting no time, Rei activates Rewind. Time warps around them, and Kronos' existence is erased as Rei simultaneously uses the regression skill. After desperately activating Rewind, Rei finds himself in the past staring into a mirror at his younger self, utterly shocked by what has just happened. Kronos screams in agony as the regression skill takes effect. At that moment, a mysterious man appears, claiming that he wasn't strong enough to defeat the god of time and space. That's why he entrusted the regression skill to Rei, someone he believes can truly defeat Kronos. Rei wakes up with a jolt, surprised to see himself younger. He looks out the window of his room and is stunned to see that the inverted castle is still white. Just yesterday, It had been pitch black, or so he remembered. The castle had remained pure white until 7 years ago, but over time it became stained black, and a door eventually opened, leading to the lair of the god of time and space. He realizes that he won the fight and stole the rewind skill. He checks his phone and is shocked to find he's been sent back 7 years into the past. Opening his skill window, the system pops up, and he notices that rewind is gone, only skill drain remains. Still, he's overjoyed. In his previous timeline, he was never able to acquire any skill at all. His phone pings a notification for the long-awaited mage exam. Later, he arrives at Chiyoda Ward, in front of Tokyo Station, where the headquarters of the Mage Association is located. He's surprised to see that the building looks brand new. Just then, Oik and Goto, his brother's lackeys, catch his attention by calling him colorless. They mock him for trying to take the mage exam again, saying it's pointless no matter how many times someone like him tries. Their words remind Ray that this isn't his first attempt. Despite repeated failures, he had kept taking the exam over and over, unable to give up on his dream of becoming a mage. He brushes past the two lackeys, who are surprised by the sudden change in his demeanor. Meanwhile, the exam proctor, Hinata, is exasperated to see Ray once again attempting the mage exam. She warns him that he could be killed if he keeps doing this out of stubbornness. Still, she leads him to the exam room, where he must collect 3 magic stones from goblins in order to pass. Normally, for someone who has awakened a skill, this wouldn't be too difficult. However, Ray remembers that years ago, a red cap, a level 37 monster, had unexpectedly appeared in the dungeon when it shouldn't have. Just as he feared, the red cap shows up again. Hinata is shocked by the monster's appearance and urges Ray to flee while she handles it. But he remembers that in his previous timeline, Hinata couldn't defeat the red cap. She had been forced to buy him time to escape and, as a result, was severely injured. That incident ended her career as a mage, and for a long time, he blamed himself for her fate. Analyzing the monster in front of him, he quickly deduces that it possesses a skill that drastically enhances its physical abilities, rendering ordinary attacks useless. He leaps into action and uses skill drain to steal the red cap's body enhancement ability. With his physical stats now boosted, he uses the monster's own power against it, cutting it in half and successfully annihilating it. Hinata is shocked to see that Ray has defeated a red cap with just 1 hit. Ray realizes how amazing skill drain is. Hinata asks him how he did it. He panics as he knows he can't mention his special circumstance. In the heat of the moment, he says that it is only a coincidence that he defeated the creature, which the woman does not believe. It dawns on her that since there were irregular monsters, the exam needs to be cancelled, and that she needs to report the situation to the headquarters. Meanwhile, Ray picks up the gold mana stone he got from slaying the red cap and thinks about how he needs 2 more stones. Hinata tells him that it is not the time to be thinking about the exam. More goblins appear. They charge only for Ray to defeat them with just 1 slash of his sword. Hinata is stunned to see it. He asks her if the mana stones he got from the goblins count. The woman has no idea how to react, so she just screams. Later, they head back to the entrance of the mage headquarters, where Hinata gives Ray his mage license. Ray holds it and absorbs how it took him a long time to finally get one. He remembers how he spent his time being a slave to his brother Kai as a porter for 10 years. He finds relief that he is finally a mage. Hinata shows him the details regarding the exchange of mana stones. Ray reviews that mana stones are dropped from defeated monsters and are a valuable resource that does not produce any carbon emissions and can be sold to the association. Now that he has defeated an A-rank monster, Ray thinks that he must have earned decent money. He is shocked to see from the exchange paper that he actually earned 3 million in currency. Hinata informs him that it is because he defeated a red cap, and she encourages him to defeat more powerful monsters. Ray heads to the entrance of the dungeon. As he gets near it, he sees that the status graphic informs him that the entrance is reserved only for him. He remembers how he could not enter a dungeon alone before. He remembers how Hinata got injured in the last timeline and compares it to the image of her smiling happily at him now, and realizes he can now change the future for the better. A giant hand made of mana suddenly grabs him from behind and restrains him. It is revealed that it is Oik's doing, and he is with Goto to tell Ray that he is not allowed to enter the dungeon since he is colorless. Ray informs them that he has already passed the exam and should be allowed to enter solo now. Oik thinks he is lying, so he grabs him by the head and demands that he show him his skill. Ray tries to get out of the mana hand, but even his body enhancement is not strong enough to break it. He headbutts Oik right in the face instead. It leads him to steal his mana hand skill and makes him able to make the hand that is grabbing him disappear. He then summons a mana hand to restrain Oik. It shocks Oik that he really awakened. Meanwhile, Goto throws a fireball at Ray. Ray activates body enhancement, which allows him to swat away the fireball. He then punches Goto, sending him flying back and breaking a wall. Both opponents are shocked to see that Ray can use dual colors. Ray activates the stolen skill of Fireball, and he declares that he can use more than just 2 colors. Goto is surprised that Ray can also activate the 3rd color of red. Ray outstretches his hand and tries to hit Goto with a fireball, which Goto evades. Meanwhile, Oik is released from the mana hand. Ray asks them if they still want to fight. The two look at each other and then run away. Ray can tell that it will only be a matter of time until his brother Kai finds out about Ray's new abilities. He remembers how his brother treated him like a dog and always stepped on him. He worries that Kai finding out about Ray's awakening means Kai will try to crush him. He also worries about how the upside-down castle dungeon will be unlocked soon. He tries to forget about it for now and opens the dungeon gate. The gate opens to reveal bright blue lights. Ray enters. As he walks the dungeon halls, Ray reviews how he needs to level up to learn skills and increase his mana pool. He also thinks about the level of mana he can control once he levels up. The monster known as the Flame Wizard appears in front of him. Ray summons a fireball to get ready for battle. The wizard also throws fireballs, but there are many at once, and they are much larger. Ray sees that the difference in their levels made all the difference, even when they have the same technique. The monster launches the wizard's fireballs, forcing Ray to also launch his. Ray's fireball hits one of the monster's fireballs, but more are still coming at him. He jumps away from their direction to evade them. He realizes that he can't win against the creature in a head-on fight. He still has not given up and rushes towards the wizard. The wizard gets nervous since the wizard is left powerless for 2 seconds after launching its spell. Ray activates his enhanced strength and punches the creature in the face. The notification window tells him that he has successfully stolen the monster's fireball skill. The wizard gets back up from the damage of the punch and tries to summon more fireballs. The wizard is confused that it is unable to do it. Ray then launches many fireballs at the creature, enveloping the wizard in a tornado of flame. With the creature's defeat, many notification windows pop up to tell Ray that he has leveled up multiple times. He takes a look and sees that his previous level 8 has turned to level 12. This motivates him to go further into the tunnels and level up to at least level 30. Through his journey, he fought multiple monsters, leveling up along the way. Eventually, he finds that he is already at level 27. However, he can also tell that leveling up is getting harder. This thought leads him to the deepest part of the dungeon, where he reaches the final boss's gate. He slowly puts his hand on the gate and opens it. There, he finds the demonic skull demon and 2 of its flying imps. Ray sees that they are all at higher levels than he is, but this only motivates him to steal their abilities even more. He charges towards the boss and punches the skull demon. The punch gets blocked by the skull demon's magic barrier. Seeing that he can't get near, Ray backs away again. It frustrates him that the mana barrier means he can't get close enough to steal the monster's abilities. The skull demon roars and then charges at Ray. Ray evades the demon's slashes. Seeing how his opponent is so strong, he feels like he has no choice but to use a technique he just learned. Ray sees that the imps are flying towards him. He jumps towards one of them and punches it in the chin. His notification window then tells him that he has successfully stolen the creature's Ice Needle ability. He then activates Fireball and launches it at the imp. While the creature is on fire, Ray refocuses on the other imp and launches an Ice Needle at it. The ice spear stabs the imp dead center and right through its back. With the 2 imps eliminated, Ray puts his attention back on the skull demon. The boss monster then simply summons more imps from thin air. The imps charge at Ray, but they get defeated in an instant. By defeating them, he gained level 28. A notification then appears to inform him that he has gained better mana control and can now unlock skill synthesis. Ray summons an ice needle in his right hand while also summoning a fireball in his left hand. He then uses skill synthesis to fuse them together into a swirl of blue and red elements. He then charges towards the monster and launches the new attack known as Fire Lance. The boss monster uses its barrier to block it, but this time it shatters. This leads Ray to touch the boss and steal its mana barrier skill. He then punches the boss, which leads him to steal the boss's body-enhancing strength. Now, the monster feels weak. Ray attacks with his Fire Lance technique, which burns the skull demon into nothing. Out of the skull demon remains only a green mana stone. With the boss's defeat, Ray levels up even more. He reviews that skill synthesis allows him to combine skills to create an even more powerful skill. He grabs the green mana stone and sits down to rest. A notification window then suddenly appears to inform him that he has reached enough levels to increase the number of skills he can use at the same time. From only 3 skills before, he can now use 5. He goes back to the Mage Association, where Hinata is stunned to hear that he has defeated the Skull Demon, as well as reached level 33 inches only one day. She tells him that his level means he is already eligible to become a B-rank mage. Kai overhears this and appears to tell Hinata that this must be some kind of mistake. His appearance makes Rei tense up. Kai tells Hinata that he can't be a rank B mage because his brother does not even have a single skill. Hinata informs him that Rei actually defeated the Red Cap and the Demon Skull. Kai looks at Rei with rage. The madman activates energy that enhances his fist strength and punches Rei. The impact is like an explosion that overwhelms the onlookers. However, it turns out that Rei has blocked it with his barrier. He tells Kai with a sarcastic tone that his attack is dangerous. Kai now knows that the rumors that Rei has awakened are true. He warns Rei not to get cocky just because he can now use some skills. With a mischievous smile, Kai challenges him to a duel to test him out. Hinata urges Kai not to fight, but the man says it is his way to see if his brother is really worthy to become a B-rank mage. He tells Rei that if he does not do it, it must mean his B-rank eligibility is actually a lie. Rei thinks about it and declares that he will do it. His confidence annoys Kai. The two brothers head to the arena area, where they stare down each other from across the room. Rei thinks about how he should not put his guard down since he can only do 3 combo skills at level 30, while Kai can do 5 skills at once at his level 50. It made him reluctant to face him head-on. Rei summons an ice needle. Kai answers by summoning 4 fireballs. Rei throws his ice spear, which is met by the fireballs. The elements explode as they touch. Rei uses the smoke as a cover, and as it clears, he is already about to punch Kai. Kai is shocked to see his brother being enhanced by a yellow skill. Rei deduces that Kai currently has enough mana to do only 1 attack. Rei activates skill synthesis and summons a fire lance. Kai is shocked again to see him using 3 colors of skills at once. The man still smiles with confidence and activates a fireball to block Rei's charge. This pushes Rei back a few meters. It shocks Rei that his opponent's basic fireball skill is enough to overwhelm his synthesized fire lance. Kai tells him that he is on a different level compared to him. Kai shoots a flurry of fireballs, which Rei evades. Rei then throws a fire lance again. Kai counters with a fireball, which destroys the lance. Rei then uses a barrier to shield himself from the fireball, but the barrier breaks, and the explosion sends him back. Kai tells him that if he bows his head now, he will forgive him. He demands that he say he is sorry for getting carried away. Rei can tell that he can't win against him, and that the smart move is just to give up. He eliminates the thought and makes the declaration that he will never bow to him again. Kai announces that he has no choice but to let him die. He activates the skill called Overclock, which summons a giant crest of light so bright it overwhelms the room. With the skill, Kai summons 10 fireballs at once. Rei sees that Overclock is the skill that makes his brother the strongest. He sees him as the king who can use more mana than even other kings. Despite the seeming disadvantage, Rei declares that he has been waiting for his opponent to use Overclock. Rei runs towards Kai fearlessly. He recounts that only Kai can use 10 consecutive attacks at once while he jumps into the air. Kai calls him a fool since he can't dodge mid-air, and then launches the 10 fireballs at him. Rei sees it coming and uses a mana hand to grip the ground. Kai is surprised he can use yet another skill. Gripping the ground lets Rei pull away from the fireballs. It also pulls him near Kai while he is still on cooldown after the attack. He punches him right in the face while he is still completely defenseless. The punch is so strong that Kai goes flying back. With the hit, Rei has successfully stolen his Overclock skill. He believes that he has won now that Kai has no ultimate move left. Kai gets back up and is angrier than ever. The man summons the Demon Lance with his purple element. Rei fears it, as he knows it is the strongest skill of the purple. The Demon Lance is thrown at Rei. He evades it, but the speed of the attack is intimidating. Kai summons 2 more Demon Lances. Rei sees now that the Purple King is serious. He evades the lances, but he gets cornered against a wall. Rei launches Fire Lance while Kai counters with his Demon Lance. The lances explode as they meet, but Rei is near enough that he feels the blast more. It leads him to get pushed back that the wall behind him breaks. It leaves him injured and exhausted. Kai declares that he is the strongest and that he was cocky to think he could take him on. Rei acknowledges that he is no match right now, but does not give up since he sees potential in the purple skill he stole. He activates Overclock. It surprises Kai that he can use it. Rei can feel his mana capacity doubling. The notification window informs him that because his mana capacity has increased, he has unlocked the skill synthesis of black. Ray smiles as he has found his winning card. He combines red, blue, and yellow for a skill synthesis, which he knows has never been done before. The mixture then transforms into a black energy in the palm of his hand. Kai is shocked to see him unlock black mana. Meanwhile, Ray reminisces on how everyone told him that he was not suited for any of the three colors. He tells himself that they were all wrong and declares that he is the Dark Mage. Shocked by the unfamiliar color of mana, Kai launches dark lances to force his brother away. They sped right towards Ray's face, but he faced them without fear. Absolute focus glazing his eyes, he burns them down with his flames and dashed forward. It seemed like an impossible feat, but the formerly colorless mage was now barreling through the Purple King's spells. They both conjure powerful attacks, but Kai is bewildered as the abyss flames completely consume his enormous lance. It hits his body directly and subjects him to a painful explosion. Just like that, the battle is over. As the smoke subsides, Ray pants hard from exhaustion and looks down at his brother, who's fallen unconscious from all the damage. He also falls to his knees, having a difficult time believing what he just achieved. The system popped up by his face, and it shows that he's successfully synthesized the never-before-seen black skill, Abyss Flame. Hinata walked through the doors of the training room and hurriedly asked if the young man was okay. He gives her a sheepish smile and says he somehow was. Asked about the skill he just used, he accepts that he can't just keep hiding it in this situation. With this, she's given a glimpse of his power and is told that it seems to be black mana. The association members' eyes opened in wonder and shock upon witnessing the emergence of the first ever Dark Mage. Ray immediately asks if he's required to report it and would rather keep things a secret. She definitely didn't intend to pressure him into revealing himself, but says that he might be missing an opportunity by doing so. The strongest mage of each color is given the title of the king, just as Kai was. To put it simply, he's the only one bearing such a color in the world, meaning he would instantly be given the title along with all its glory. Contrary to others, the thought makes him hesitate. It isn't something he wants for the time being, especially since his level was still relatively low. Moving on, he turns to his unconscious brother and asks if he's going to be okay. Hinata assures him that such wounds won't kill a king, but makes the arrangements to bring him to a medical room nonetheless. Just then, the earth shook, and their mobile whirred with an important alert. Ray's eyes opened wide in terror as the message he was expecting finally came. Both mages read the announcement about the emergence of the Ikebukuro dungeon, which houses the god of time and space. Its recommended level is 70, yet most kings are currently playing on the 50th level. According to his old future, they realize how powerless they are within the first week. As a result, the dungeon was abandoned and left to accumulate power. Unfortunately, that was the starting point of the tragedy that took humanity down. At the time, the concept of a dungeon collapse was still unknown, but failing to conquer a dungeon in time would cause monster leaks. Ikebukuro was the first to have such an outbreak. The city of Tokyo was overwhelmed with monsters within days, and countless people lost their lives. Unwilling to let such a tragedy happen once more, Ray decides to stop the collapse no matter what it takes. He tells Hinata that he intends to conquer the dungeon, but even if it's someone as strong as he is, it's still too dangerous. Moreover, only A-rank mages are allowed into dungeons, with a recommendation of 50 and above. There's still some time before the beginning of the end, so he has to get strong enough before then. He confirms that the next A-rank promotion examination is next week, and announces that he's going to raise his rank within this period. Hinata couldn't believe the confident claim that bordered arrogance, but if it was Ray, then passing the exam really might be possible. That said, there was still a problem. To even participate in the examination, one must clear a B-rank dungeon with a party first. In other words, he has 1 week to form a party and conquer the dungeon. He completely forgot about this and turned sullen as he checked his messages. Everyone still remembers him as the weak and colorless mage. As such, the people around mocked and avoided him completely. Getting that rank promotion was an absolute necessity, but cleaning a high-level dungeon alone was too difficult. He sighs and pulls on his hair, unsure of what to do. Just then, he hears scolding from nearby. A woman named Yama was looking down at a party member, saying she's going to make her work. Intrigued, Ray hears her talk about letting a girl join because she's a dual-color wielder, but her skill was so weak. A familiar woman apologizes without objection. It's not a pretty sight for the young man, who also spent most of his life being treated like dead weight. The party leader calls to Aya and says she's just continuing to hold them back. The name makes Ray turn instantly, and he recognizes the woman from his old future. she was eventually going to be known as the Scarlet King, master of yellow magic. However, she's still an incompetent mage during this era, so much so that she's unexpectedly being treated like trash by her own team members. Aya trembles, worried as she can't pay for her sister's medical bills if she's kicked out. With a desperate expression, she promises to do better next time. Preying on her, Yama orders the girl to prove her determination in their raid later. With her nod, the party move forward, and Rei can't help but worry about what might happen. As he walks home later that day, he thinks about Aya, who will only become a king several years later. Before she reaches that point, she'll have to experience several hardships, and he even remembers an incident where she was left in a coma for years after fighting a boss. He freezes, struck with the realization that the very incident might happen that day. Although he can't be sure, it was obvious that she wasn't well earlier. With this, he rushes to save her in a hurry. Meanwhile, Yama and her party reach the dungeon boss room. A spectral night boss named Dulla stood his ground, brandishing a huge sword and thick armor. The leader then smiled slyly, getting an idea. She suddenly pushes Aya forward and tells the poor girl to fight the boss alone. It was an unthinkable order, as fighting together was already a challenge on its own. However, they threaten to kick her out again if she refuses to do so. The mage is told to do her best. After all, she's doing this for her little sister in the hospital. Reminded of why she's doing all this, Aya accepts the order and turns around. They snickered as they watched her feeble hands tremble. Putting them together, she summons a fireball and launches it at the boss. It's engulfed in her flames but doesn't even move an inch, nor does it show any signs of damage. Having completely nullified her attack, Dulla leapt into the air, raising his blade high to strike. The boss drives his sword into the ground, and she barely manages to dodge. Sent flying by the shockwave, Aya struggles to get up right away and finds the enemy standing over her before she could even recover. Seeing it raise its blade for the kill, she closes her eyes in terror, confirming one last time just how useless she was. Just then, they hear a loud voice activate extreme body enhancement. Rei had arrived just in time to save her, and blocked the boss' heavy sword with his own. They looked on in wonder as he let out a loud war cry, gathering his power. The young man swings against the knight and sends him crashing into the ground. Breaking through their shock, he turns back to Aya and asks if she's okay. Yama and her group looked at Rei, questioning who in the world the uninvited visitor was. Dulla is a type of monster bearing colossal weight, but he just blew him away with a single swing of his sword. As they started to wonder what he was, the boss stood back up and roared in anger. While the attack sent him crashing, it's only natural to need more to take him down. Its armor is enhanced with strengthening, so normal attacks won't get through so easily. Rei charges in with the most effective plan he has. Dulla swings his heavy sword, but the young man just jumps over it, intending to steal his skill and nullify it. Leaping high into the sky, he activates his draining ability and touches the target's chest. However, it doesn't work as planned and he completely fails to get anything. The boss swings and sends him back a good distance away. He was okay, fortunately blocking the strike with his sword in time. His failed attempt was easily understandable. Dulla's armor is merely an external part of him, so they have to touch his main body sitting inside. Retaliating, the boss swings his sword and drives it into the ground, sending a wave of powerful mana at them. Rei puts himself between the attack and Aya, and summons a magic barrier to block the spell. As the shield was focused on the two of them, the shockwave sent the girl's party members flying away. Yama manages to hold her ground with difficulty, and she tries to fight back by summoning an ice lance. Launched at the enemy, it shoots across the room with amazing speed, but Dulla meets and breaks it halfway with another swing. His power shatters her ice and reaches the mage, forcing her to crash into the wall nearby. None of their attacks were reaching properly, so it's time for Rei to do something against the formidable enemy. To break through its strengthened armor, the young man synthesizes 3 elements and casts Abyss Fire. Aya's mouth opens in shock as she sees black mana for the first time. The fireball grew slowly. Meanwhile, Dulla continued his assault and launched another attack at the humans. This time, it was Rei's turn to completely overpower him and devour his spell with his own. The Abyss Flame shot forward. With a mix of confidence and ignorance, the boss stood his ground and received a direct hit from the dark magic. To his surprise, it consumes his body completely, and Dulla roared as the room blazed with never-before-seen power. Soon enough, his whole body was incinerated, and all that's left was a hunk of green crystal from the dungeon boss. Aya stared at him in amazement, unable to believe that he took such a powerful thing down with one hit. Getting her wits back, she calls to him and thanks the young man for saving her. He was able to get the valuable mana crystal and even save the person who's going to be a king in the future. Meanwhile, Yama stood up from the rubble, gritting her teeth and questioning what was happening. Studying the situation, she confirms that the intruder was actually extremely strong. With that said, her eyes were still on the boss room reward worth millions. Bravely and audaciously shouting at them, she demands to be given the mana stone, as they're technically in charge of conquering the dungeon. Aya couldn't believe she was acting that way, with the person who just saved them. Fortunately, Ray doesn't mind giving her the reward in his hands. In exchange, she wants Aya to leave their party and join his. Everyone is stunned by the unexpected and unthinkable offer. That said, he'll only do it if she wants to take his hand as well. Yama cackles with her friends, finding his demand absolutely ridiculous. She grants his wish without any objection, and threateningly holds Aya's shoulder to ask if she's okay with it. She hesitates for a moment, but swallows it all and places herself in his care. The party leader snatches the mana stone right away, delighted over selling her team's dead weight for such a high price. On the other hand, Ray glares at her, certain that none of their notions about her are correct. He then apologizes to Aya for making her leave her party all so suddenly. The poor girl looks down sullenly again, sure that she'll only be dragging him down. Not minding it, he says it'll all be okay, and that she'll grow even stronger than those who abandoned her soon enough. Told that she's going to get stronger, Aya's mind is full of doubts, but Ray nods as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Before he came there, he saw her at the association and overheard their conversation. She looks down, recalling the embarrassing and vulnerable moment. He apologizes for witnessing it, but offers to support her in some way. Seeing his extended hand, the poor girl can't help but hesitate for a moment, but eventually decides to accept his hand and offer. To his delight, she places herself in his care, and they shake hands to formally start their partnership. The next day, the pair head right into a B-rank dungeon. Stretching their limbs, they get ready to conquer it for the A-rank promotion examination. In addition to that, there's a key element inside that will serve as the catalyst for Aya's growth. The thought makes her heart pound. Once she gets stronger and raises her rank, she'll finally earn enough to pay for their medical bills. With this, they take another step towards their own goals. The gate flashed and the two were transported inside a cave-like area. Aya immediately starts to panic upon seeing something. Pointing ahead, she calls on Ray to look ahead as snarling black wolves prowled and approached with menacing glares. Stepping forward, he tells her to leave it to him for now, and activates his extreme body enhancement. He dashed forward to take a few out immediately, but zoomed right past to take another group out in an instant. Meanwhile, Aya just watched, open-mouthed in shock. Yama and her party were undeniably strong in their own right, but the man before her was on a completely different level, and could not be compared. After a while of walking deeper, they finally reached their target destination. Ray is going to support her, while she moves all according to their plan. Despite being doubtful, she still steps forward to take the challenge on. The plan was to defeat as many monsters there as possible, to increase her level in the most efficient way. In the first place, she can only use simple attack spells like Fireball. With that said, she still has to try her very best. She casts her spells and shoots flames at them. As Aya underwent his little test, Ray watched and wondered if she was going to realize her own weapon. Unfortunately, his show is interrupted as he senses someone approaching from behind. He was already expecting them, but has no intention of letting them disturb her training. Just then, one of the smaller enemies creeps behind the unsuspecting girl. It attacked and managed to wound her arm. No matter how many she defeats, they just keep coming and attacking her. She heaved and panted, knowing she's going to run out of mana if this continues. Sounds of clanging metal reach her ears, and she turns to see Ray fighting enemies behind her. He was busy, hacking them all down on his own and trying to make her own battle easier. Seeing this, she swallows all her complaints down her throat. To live up to his expectations and feelings, she continues to launch waves of fireballs again and starts to gradually level up point by point. To her surprise, the mana that was just running out suddenly began to get replenished. Her reserves felt full and ready for battle. Following Ray's plan, Aya starts to realize that her strength is in long battles, particularly because her greatest weapon is her immense mana pool. A yellow window flashed beside her, and the young man smiled from afar as she looked at what was happening. The system notifies her that she's unlocked the Blast Furnace skill. Having reached their initial goal, they head to the boss room and face the huge slime boss. Ray makes the first move and dashes in immediately. With his eyes set on his target, he instructs Aya to use the skill she just obtained. Doing as told, she activates Blast Furnace and is engulfed in a blaze of her own flames. She looks around in surprise, unable to comprehend the power that just emerged from her own body. Was it really her power? It's a skill that increases the firepower of her skill, at the expense of a high mana cost. While a con for others, it fits perfectly according to her capabilities. Empowered by the furnace, she shoots a fireball again, but now it's more of a flamethrower. Ray smiled as he watched her exceed his every expectation. Her tremendous mana pool, combined with this skill, will be the combination that allows her to become the famed Scarlet King. The battle ends with her onslaught, and he praises her for a job well done. Aya can't help but smile as well, similarly surprised by her own capabilities. This was all thanks to him, and she couldn't have gotten so far without his help. With the B-rank dungeon conquered, they fulfilled the condition to participate in the promotion exam. All that's left now was to actually pass it, and reach A rank no matter what. The day of the A rank promotion exam arrives. Their combat capabilities will be measured first, then they'll be paired for mock battles. The partners stood there with determined gazes as the moment of truth came. Ray had to pass the exam and become an A-rank mage no matter what happens. With the real test right in front of their eyes, all that's left to do was do their best. As they talk about the first test for their combat abilities, a familiar voice calls out, saying she didn't expect to see someone incompetent there. Yama was there with her lackeys, looking insultingly as usual. Aya freezes upon seeing her former leader, so Ray puts himself between the two, and says she won't lose to cowardly people like them. Scowling, she tells them to act tough while they still can. After all, she has a new party member that neither of them could possibly beat. A woman with icy blue hair and an equally chilling expression walked forward. Ray immediately recognizes her name, Yuri. In his previous life, it was the name of someone who solo conquered a high-level dungeon on a whim. After that feat, she became famed throughout their world. Around this time, her ability is probably that of an A-ranker already. The girl suddenly came close, and, with observant eyes, looked up while deeming him to be an interesting person. Seeing his expression, Aya calls his name and asks if there was something wrong. It's Yuri's turn to recognize his name and guesses his identity. Word has spread that the Purple King was defeated by someone recently, and she correctly infers that the young man is responsible for it. While his partner is surprised by the news, Ray just accepts that she knows that much. Nonetheless, the girl turns away, casually saying that he can't beat her anyway. Given the rumors surrounding Kai, it's almost certain that he can't be compared to her. The young man can only smile at her confidence. At the examination site, the applicants are shown an artificial golem. It's covered with extremely hard materials, and all they have to do is attack it as hard as they can. Called forth as the first examinee, Ray summons a fireball over his palms. The others scoff at him, finding it foolish that he'll attempt to hit a metal golem with fire. That said, he knows full well that normal flames won't break through the armor. Dashing forward and dodging the target's attack, he starts conjuring blue magic into his arms as well. The two elements synthesize with impressive speed and efficiency, allowing him to launch a fire lance at the golem's head in an instant. Soon enough, the smoke subsides to reveal the hole that was bored through its head. The proctor confirms the successful destruction of the target, and everyone finally falls into shock upon realizing what they just witnessed. Meanwhile, Yuri just smiled, impressed by his wisdom to strengthen the fire with blue mana. It's Aya's turn later on, and she has to hold a crystal to measure her overall mana pool. Yama watched from nearby, saying she should be ashamed of herself. However, their arrogance is quickly replaced by bewilderment, and they witness the girl engulfed in a blazing torrent of pure mana. Unwilling to believe it, she says she must be cheating somehow. Finally, the time for mock battles has come. Aya and Yama are called on first, and face each other in the arena. While one was calming herself down, the other was full of emotions and hell-bent on proving that she's lying. As soon as the match starts, several ice needles are launched, but Aya easily shatters and melts them with a single ball of flames. Yama is stunned, not expecting her former member to possess such a spell in her arsenal. All she could do was stare in confusion, but her opponent was not one to waste time during their duel. Although smaller and weaker than the first spell, multiple fireballs flew forward. Unwilling to make it so easy, she summons a mana barrier to block the attacks. Finding it idiotic, Yama plans to wait for her opponent to finish her barrage, then counterattack. However, the color in her face gradually starts to disappear. The barrage kept coming, and there were no signs of it stopping soon. Once Aya, who has an immense mana pool, starts attacking, a mere magic barrier won't be enough to keep her at bay. This is a lesson Yama has to learn the hard way. Her shield breaks soon enough, and she's forced to run away from the rain of fire. Unfortunately, The explosion breaks the pavement and a block of cement hits her head. Still refusing to believe how strong her old member is, Yama loses consciousness and falls. The referee raises his hand and declares Aya as the winner. It's still too good to be true, but Rei just praises her for the impressive battle. As she wished him luck on his own duel, his opponent approached with a subtle smile. Rei and Yuri are called on for their match. The two skilled mages face off in the final mock battle of the exams, and there was no doubt that it was going to be an interesting fight. Suddenly, Yuri asks for the reason why he's taking the examination. After all, it feels like he's a lot more prepared than any of the other participants. Rei says there is something he needs to achieve no matter what happens, which is why he can't just stop there. After pondering over his resolve for a moment, she smiles condescendingly and argues that she might be too strong for him. The girl brims with mana, and he knows just how powerful she is, but he still intends to win. They earn each other's acknowledgement before the match even starts. Finally, the referee drops his hand. Yuri makes the first move and conjures daggers of magic. She launches them at him all at once, but he easily deflects them with his weapon. It's mana conversion, a rare skill that allows the user to manipulate their mana freely. Noticing a flash from above, Rei's body reacts immediately, and he manages to dodge a huge blade of pure mana. He's commended for moving around so well, and he dashes in immediately to start a counterattack. This won't be done so easily as she shot several blasts his way, but he just pushes forward and blocks them with a mana barrier. To her surprise, he's able to close the gap between them in an instant. His swing is evaded as she jumps up, but he's prepared for that and has already prepared his next spell. He shoots a fire lance while she's still in midair. While the power is just as destructive as expected, it fails to break through her thick mana barrier. Blocking it completely, she descends safely from the close call. In addition to being as strong as expected, her defenses are also remarkably solid. The audience begins to hold their breath as Yuri moves on to her next spell. She materializes her mana into tentacle-like forms and starts whipping at him while he desperately maneuvers around them. It's turning out to be really troublesome, and he can't win if he just keeps on running around in a rush. As he was about to be cornered and hit by all the mana, a bright yellow glow wrapped his body. With body enhancement, he cuts through all of them without taking a single hit. Instead of being terrified from the sight, she grins upon realizing the power he holds. It's the first time she's seen someone wield 3 colors of mana, but unfortunately for him, she's also capable of using body enhancement. Working her magic together, she conjures a menacing scythe of pure mana. With the enhancement, she disappears from her spot with surprising speed. Although she finds his blind spot, Rei reacts instinctively and turns to parry her swing. He's stunned by how fast and agile she's become, but it isn't something he can't keep up with. That said, even her power now is starting to catch him off guard. In this case, it was time for him to use his secret weapon and hold her hand to drain her powers. She scoffs at the attempt, not understanding what happened, but reality hits as she tries and fails to raise her weapon. Her body enhancement has been stolen. Feeling her strength slip away, Yuri's tight defenses completely fall apart. Rei wastes no time and strikes her gut to knock the wind out of her body, hiding his best skill until the end paid off, and she falls to the ground unconscious. The referee announces his victory. Yuri woke up and slowly opened her eyes a long while later. To her surprise, she sees her former opponent and his partner greeting her with a smile. She accepts her defeat wholeheartedly, admitting that she didn't expect him to be so strong. That said, he must not have come to visit just to gloat about his promotion. Filling his words with sincerity, Rei bluntly asks her to join their party. Her mouth gaped open, caught off guard by the sudden invitation. She's also been promoted to rank A, and they need her help to conquer high-level dungeon. Determined to recruit her, he continues to give a convincing speech, but Yuri just bursts out laughing, not even letting him finish. Ascertained of just how interesting he is, she accepts his offer, knowing that following him will be much more fun than doing anything else. Like Aya, she places herself in his care, and they shake hands to finalize the partnership. Just then, the earth shook hard enough to make them fall. Rei had an idea of what was happening, and quickly turned to look outside the window. He expected it, but still dreaded the moment. Deep in the Ikebukuro dungeon, Kronos smiled, still chained but not for long. The earthquake stops as abruptly as it began, but Rei's mind immediately begins working. In his previous world, these were preemptive signs of the dungeon's collapse. In other words, they were nearing the deadline to conquer Ikebukuro. A difficulty of its level is unheard of in this era, so he has no choice but to save the world himself. As such, he addresses his party members with a serious topic. Aya exclaims in surprise, not expecting to be told that they're going to defeat the hardest dungeon in the Japanese peninsula, with just the three of them in the party. As sharp as always, Yuri asks if he's suggesting this because of the earthquake just now. He expresses his discomfort, especially with reports on the appearance of irregular monsters. To him, it's as if everything was an ominous prelude of a tragedy. Unafraid and only concerned about how fun it'll be, the new recruit accepts. Aya does so as well, promising not to be a burden to them both. With this, Rei thanks his party members and they get ready to head out immediately. They meet with Hinata early the next day and submit the documents to conquer Ikebukuro Dungeon. Moving past the surprise, the party soon finds themselves right by the entrance. It's the most difficult challenge, recommended only for mages level 70 and above. Their chances would be better with more people, but none of the other A rankers are available. Rei sighs, thinking how nice it would be to have someone named Haru there. Before his regression, he was known as the top ranker in Japan, and would be a great asset to have. Regardless, if the dungeon collapse were to happen again, chaos will ensue, and Chronos will appear just as he did last time. He has to stop that from happening, and to do so, he calls on his friends to help him. Before moving, Yuri raises her hands with a favor to ask. She requests that he address her casually moving forward, as using her surname feels too unnatural. Aya shares her sentiments, and says they're already friends anyway. With a warm smile, he agrees and accepts. Holding on to their newfound bond, they take their first step to conquer the dungeon. Upon passing through the gates, they're immediately met with an eerie red cave. From its walls, a demon-like monster stepped forward. The level 71 skull demon turned its head toward them. It'd be a boss in other dungeons, but it appears so casually right by the entrance in this one. Unfazed, the three activate their magic and get ready to fight. Together, they charge at the enemy, who already has its magic barrier up. The first order of business is destroying that shield. Rei gives it a shot by launching a fire lance, but a single hit is far from being strong enough to even crack it. Fortunately, he isn't working alone anymore, and his two powerful comrades are able to follow up. The combined power of 3 A rankers is enough to destroy the barrier, and give the young man a chance to cut through with his blade. Just like that, the mana stone drops and they achieve their first kill as a team. As they commend each other's movements, Yuri raises a question she's had ever since their mock battle. He's finally asked how he can use so many skills at once. Given their relationship, he's comfortable enough to share the truth about his skill drain. Their confusion is understandable, so he explains how he's able to steal a skill just by touching the user. This explains exactly what happened when Yuri lost her enhancement during their match. While the two get along without any troubles, Aya looks on in bewilderment, not expecting him to have such a powerful skill. She was surprised when he talked about conquering the dungeon, but if it's Rei, then the goal might not be so far-fetched after all. As he rushes forward, she reminds herself to not be a burden to her party members. With this, they push through, fighting and slaying powerful monsters without a break. It was an exhausting journey, but they reached the boss room after a long while. Feeling the rumbling on the ground, Aya worries about not being strong enough yet. Rei assures her that it should be doable, as they even leveled up on the way there. This is particularly true for him, and even Yuri was getting used to fighting with them. If she's going to fall behind, then she should at least do her best to support them. Just then, something shot up from the area behind her. They react and turn to see what was happening, but it was too late as a tentacle was already reaching for Aya. It wrapped around her body tightly, and lifted her up before her comrades could come. The level 89 dungeon boss, the Grim Reaper, finally showed itself completely. It should be impossible for it to exit the deepest room at this point, but there it was. Seeing their confusion, Chronos smiled from his prison. They were in an undeniably critical situation, but saving Aya was something they had to achieve no matter what happens. Chronos watched the humans and tells them to become the first victims of the grand opening. They call out to Aya and ask if she's okay. She instantly casts mana barrier to protect herself from being crushed, but it'll have a limit, even for someone with a mana pool like hers. Rei can't use Abyss Flame either, as she might get caught in the crossfire. Desperate to save her, he volunteers to get the tentacle's attention and instructs Yuri to try and get to Aya during all that. They confidently dash forward as they always have, but one casual swipe shows the boss' destructive power and instantly demands caution. Rei tries to be more careful this time, but a tentacle thrusts out from his blind spot. His comrades scream and try to warn him. Fortunately, he's able to cast Mana Hand in time and pulls himself to safety right before getting hit by the enemy. It was definitely a close call, but at least he served his purpose and provided enough of a distraction for Yuri. She leapt up, raising her scythe right above the arms holding Aya captive. However, swinging her weapon with full force was not enough, and she fails to even touch the enemy's flesh. To their surprise, it's using a strengthening and barrier spell. She backs away to regroup for now. Neither of them have been injured yet, but there was something extremely strange about this encounter. Tentacle monsters normally have really low defense, and he's never heard of one with a barrier skill. What's more, it was wandering just outside the boss room. As suspicion filled their minds, Kronos smirked. There was no time to think, especially with the enemy's limbs attacking them. The pair do their best to fend the appendages off. Meanwhile, Aya watched from above and soon began to blame herself for everything. Since they met, she's always been relying on Ray, who always made her battles easier. As such, she told herself that it'll all be okay with him there. The time to be passive was long gone, and she had to do something to help. She knows this, but couldn't think of any way to help. On the other hand, Yuri's panting grew heavier, and she knew that things were bad. Their mana has been depleted by the continuous fights they've been having. Had they been in perfect condition, then maybe there was a chance. As this crosses his mind, he gets an idea about using a certain skill. He calls to Aya and asks her to use her mana fusion on them. She's surprised, especially since it's a skill highly labeled as useless and mana inefficient. It's true that mana fusion was once considered useless, even in his old world. But, thanks to a certain mage, the value was turned over. Aya was the person who did it in his old life. Now, she was still trapped, and worried about betting on a useless skill she's been hiding. But, if it's Ray, then maybe they might be able to win this. Doing as told, she uses mana fusion. Her fiery but warm aura circles around her friends, and they could feel their mana recovering. The skill allows the user to share their mana, and as such will only work with those who have a huge mana pool. Aya looked on in delight, glad that she could help and save their mana with them. Even with the enhancements, their current power still wasn't enough. With a closer look, Aya realizes that it's because she's consuming her energy by keeping the barrier up. Filled with determination, she suddenly releases the shield and has a few seconds before they come to crush her again. Ray was filled with dread, realizing that his friend disabled the only mana barrier protecting her. As expected, the tentacles immediately wrapped around her body, strangling and constricting her. Barely freeing her mouth and arm, she reached toward her comrades and casted Blast Furnace. Her power reaches its targets, who feel themselves being enhanced. The potency of fusion was being increased with Blast Furnace, but her decision was extremely risky. Weakly calling their names, she barely manages to stay away and keep the skill active. Finally, her body sinks into the tentacles. Quietly, the two remaining mages confirm their next plan. With immense speed and power, they dash forward. If Aya shows them that much determination, then Yuri can't help but return in kind. Thanking her sincerity, they push past all the tough flesh and break through. Ray slashes through the tentacles of the Grim Reaper, thanking Aya for helping them restore their mana and giving them enough power to break through the enemy's defenses. He tells Yuri that they need to execute their original plan, to which she agrees. They do their best to reach Aya, who is unconscious, but the monster relentlessly tries to stop them from getting near their teammate. Yuri then confidently tells him that she can create an opening for him to reach Aya. She conjures a stairway made of mana to help Ray climb up, maximizing her skill of bringing imagined objects to life. Ray wastes no time and pushes forward, slashing through every tentacle that tries to prevent him from saving Aya. After slicing through, he finally manages to rescue her. Aya immediately regains consciousness and thanks him for not abandoning her. Yuri expresses her gratitude to Aya for lending them mana, commending her for her courage and inspiration. With Aya safe, only one problem remains: defeating the boss. The Grim Reaper suddenly regenerates and attacks them again with its tentacles. Yuri anxiously asks what their plan is, noting that if it keeps regenerating, they'll never be able to kill it. With confidence, Ray tells her that he has a plan and promises to destroy the monster. He then leaps into action, much to Yuri's surprise and confusion, as he leaves his weapon behind while charging at the enemy. Ray bravely faces the Grim Reaper and unleashes his double Dark Mage skill, the Abyss ultimately obliterating the boss in one strike and leaving a gaping hole in its body. Meanwhile, in his captivity, Kronos is in utter shock that Ray managed to defeat the Grim Reaper. Furious, he vows that he will never let Ray and his party leave the dungeon alive. Suddenly, a tentacle bursts out of the Grim Reaper's corpse and tries to strike Aya. Fortunately, Ray saves her just in time. To their disbelief, the Grim Reaper begins emitting dark energy, prompting them to flee from the unknown threat. Determined to protect his team, Rei leads them toward the exit, but just as they're about to reach it, the dark aura catches up to them. Fortunately, a mysterious man appears and shields them with a powerful mana barrier, remarking that they're playing a very dangerous game. Aya expresses her gratitude to the man who turns out to be Haru. He smiles, happy to be recognized by the team. Aya then asks Rei if this is the man he mentioned before the raid, and the leader confirms it, recalling that before his regression, Haru was known as the Yellow King. Haru could create insanely powerful shields and barriers, and if it weren't for him, they would have been in serious trouble. Haru explains that when they took on the dungeon clearing job, he was assigned to another mission, which was why he managed to save them just in time. He adds that someone contacted him to rescue them, making Rei think that it must have been Hinata from the association. Haru's expression suddenly changes as he asks about Rei's identity, recognizing him as the Purple King's brother. Seeing Rei's surprised look, Haru explains that he's heard some interesting rumors about him and had been looking forward to meeting him in person. The Dark Mage smiles and thanks Haru again for saving his team. Haru replies that it was his pleasure, then notices that the Grim Reaper has turned into a reward gem. He walks over to retrieve the magic stone, astonished by its size. Tossing it toward Rei, Haru congratulates them for clearing the dungeon. When Rei asks if it's really okay for them to take the stone, Haru coolly tells them to accept their reward but warns that they should watch their backs, as many will soon know about their achievement. Back at the association, the team talks about how strange Haru is too simple-minded and carefree for someone of his skill level. Just then, Hinata appears, relieved that they're all safe. She admits she was worried when they took the quest and rushed into a level 70 dungeon. She lightly scolds Rei for risking his team and then asks about their experience inside. Hinata gasps when Rei shows her the massive magic stone they obtained, shocking her and everyone in the association. Soon, the news spreads like wildfire. Rei's party has conquered the Ikebukuro dungeon. The clearing team interviews them about their unexpected victory. Aya faces the cameras, explaining that she joined the team to help pay for her sister's treatment, and she thanks Rei for letting her be part of the group. Meanwhile, Yama watches in anger, furious that Aya is finally being recognized instead of her. In another part of the city, Kai watches Rei's interview, boiling with rage. People continue to talk about how a colorless mage managed to clear a high-level dungeon. News that also reaches Haru. Rei looks up at the inverted castle, reflecting on how he was able to successfully stop a dungeon break. However, he remembers that everyone nearly died because of him, and he silently vows to become stronger. 3 days later, Rei and his team return to the association, where they are greeted by Hinata, along with unexpected fame and attention from everyone. Rei asks what Hinata wants to discuss. Her tone turns serious as she reveals that the association has received a dungeon clearing request specifically for his team. Rei is surprised they've only recently been promoted to A rank, and now they already have a personal request. Hinata hands him the official document, noting that only a handful of adventurers ever receive such requests. Aya cheerfully congratulates Rei, but he humbly brushes it off. When Rei asks who the client is, Hinata tells him that she cannot disclose that information due to management orders. Seeing Rei deep in thought, Yuri encourages him to accept the mission. Hinata then adds that a sorcerer from the first rank will be joining their party. The next day, the 3 members arrive at the meeting point, waiting for their 4th companion. To their surprise, Haru appears, greeting them enthusiastically and revealing that he will be their assistant in exploring the next dungeon. Rei can't believe that Haru is actually their escort. Haru admits that he kept the information to surprise them and is thrilled to be working with celebrities like them. As they tread through the dungeon, the team can't help but be amused by Haru's good vibes. As they go along, Rei asks if the dungeon is filled with traps, to which Haru agrees. He explains that, according to old scout reports, many of the passages are sealed by walls of flame. The team grows concerned upon hearing this, but Haru confidently assures them that there's nothing to worry about after all. He's a master of barrier magic and can protect them all. Rei finds Haru very friendly, yet he can't shake off a strange feeling about him. As they continue their exploration, a swarm of monsters suddenly appears, prompting the team to prepare for battle. To Rei's disbelief, however, Haru hides behind a boulder, admitting that he's terrified of insect-type monsters. With no choice, the 3 members take on the monsters themselves. Aya unleashes her fireballs, while Yuri notes somewhat disappointed that these monsters are much weaker than those they faced in the Ikebukuro dungeon. Seeing his team giving their best, Rei uses his skill to finish off the remaining enemies. Everyone applauds Rei for a job well done, while Haru thanks him for saving his life, sheepishly admitting that he's useless when it comes to insects. Unbeknownst to him, another horde of monsters emerges from behind. Yuri tries to warn him, but Haru is already aware, activating his mana barrier just in time and trapping the monsters within it. His swift reaction and impressive skill leave the team astonished. Rei then asks about his ability. Haru explains that his skill is called Arc, a technique that uses mana barriers to create a space completely under his control. However, it doesn't work well against large targets, so he has to eliminate the enemies quickly. Rei admits that it's truly an incredible skill. After defeating the monsters, the team continues deeper into the dungeon until they reach an area where walls of blazing fire block the path. Haru steps forward confidently, saying he can tame the flames to let them pass through. He then forms a pyramid-shaped barrier, shielding the team from the raging heat. They proceed safely toward the entrance of the boss room, ready to face whatever creature lies within. Meanwhile, Haru smirks to himself, eager to witness firsthand what Rei is truly capable of. Moving deeper into the dungeon, the party is met with magma and scorching heat all throughout. Just then, a level 68 volcanic wolf stepped forward, snarling as it set its eyes on the humans. Like other dungeon bosses, the beast looks fairly intimidating. As its howls echo throughout the cave, a fireball gathers right by its mouth. Rei instructs the others to prepare their barriers, but Haru raises his hand, saying there will be no need for all that. The blazing ball of flames is launched forward, but it completely stops upon hitting the Yellow King's barrier. The power of his defensive skill was astounding, and they can focus on offense with him handling their protection. For now, they all agree to put their trust on the reliable newcomer. But a storm of attacks might still leave a crack in the shield, so they can't drop their guards. Rei considers launching balls of the Abyss Flame. It's too risky to consume so much mana trying to hit something that fast. Turning to a different method of attack, he dashes forward to draw the enemy's attention. On the other hand, his comrades are instructed to strike when they see an opening. He enhanced his body and, with empowered legs, disappeared from the ground as he leapt up. Reappearing inches from the wolf's face, he dodges its first attack. Countering, he slashes the side of its body and signals for the others to move. The ladies do as told and prepare to strike. Within moments, they have stone bullets and mana blades ready to launch. They're shot at the target and, despite moving extremely fast, the boss is able to dodge the projectiles without much effort. It heads to higher ground, making Rei curse in frustration. With the intense heat already wearing them down, they can't draw the battle out. Meanwhile, Haru watched silently and intently. Knowing they're going to burn their energy soon, he wonders what the party leader's next move is going to be. He's already come up with a new plan, and tells his members to aim for the wolf's legs. They smile and confirm the order, glad that he actually has something in mind. Now they just have to give it everything they have. Yuri makes the first move and sends mana blades at its feet. On the other hand, Aya was preparing to use her blast furnace and boost her combat power. Pushing past her normal limits, she conjures a huge stone bullet and shoots it at the enemy. Given the size of it, the boss has no choice but to dodge by jumping high into the air. This was the perfect opportunity, as it can't possibly evade while airborne. Rei moves to catch it defenseless. Pulling his arm back with a sword coated in chilling and hard ice, he aims the tip at the enemy and thrusts through its body. Brilliant blue light flashes throughout the dungeon. Closing its eyes as it breathed its last breath, the monster crashed to the ground. Watching it vaporize into ash and a clump of mana stone, the party members praise each other for a job well done. Haru acknowledges their impressive teamwork, and just how skilled Rei is as a mage. However, he could feel a strange power nestled inside the young man. As they move to report their victory to the association first, the Yellow King asks them to wait and summons a golden box of magic. There's something he wants to test, and they're going to use the thing inside. His little box has the ability to trap monsters or test abilities. In all honesty, Haru wants to know his true strength, so he wants Rei to fight the thing inside. He won't actually force him to do so, and he'll pull it back if things get too dangerous. The young mage isn't sure what he's after, but humoring him might actually work in his favor, so he accepts the little challenge. With this, the golden box glowed brightly and started to open as they began. In contrast to its light, a dark essence seeped out from the opening and formed a humanoid figure. Seeing the silhouette, Haru explains that it reads the opponent's memories and turns into what they fear most. Just then, Rei's heart drops and his face turns deathly pale. Before him was Kronos, god of space and time. The Yellow King smiled ignorantly, amused by the boy as he looked at something he's never faced before. Little did he know the danger he just brought to the world. Rei was suddenly facing his biggest enemy, much sooner than he expected to. Even the real Kronos feels his duplicate's presence from the dungeon, and recalls how similar it is to last time. The others are still in the dark, and were simply curious about the being in front of them. The shadow transforms into its target's greatest fear, but Haru has never seen such a thing. In other words, Ray has fought something he's never even faced. The young mage was still in disbelief, trying to tell himself that it was impossible. That said, he could still feel the dreadful and soul-crushing sensation of despair. Seeing it start to move, the mage calms himself down. Intent on destroying the enemy, he makes the first move and leaps to the battle. Their blades clash, and a deafening ring of metal echoes through the dungeon. Ray is no longer as weak as he used to be. Now, he's able to swing and push the god back. However, this is far from enough to phase such a powerful enemy. Kronos glares at him, and the simple action is enough to blast a hole through the stone pillars behind his target. The others were still observing and enjoying it as if it were a show. Ray has fought this enemy before, and is well aware of the powers he holds. Now it was his turn to fight back. He encases his blade in blue ice like before. This was a desperate effort, and he managed to make contact, but to his surprise, Kronos just smiled. The steel was pressed against the god's chest, but it was so hard that he couldn't even scratch him. He's sent flying back with an easy swing, and he doesn't know how his attack could be deflected with barely any effort. Finally, Haru realizes that it's too dangerous, and going any further risks Ray's safety. As such, he moves to seal the creature back in the box, but falls still as his powers fail to work in the face of the god. Yuki asks what's taking so long, and tells him to seal it already. However, the shadow was fighting back, and he was strong enough to resist it. With the unexpected scenario, they all start to panic. It's never happened with Haru before, and he doesn't understand what's going on. Meanwhile, Kronos just smiled, amused by the pseudo-body he was given. Considering the severity of the situation, the other mages leap into action and try to help their friend. Aya activates her blast furnace and empowers Yuri, who jumps toward the enemy with her mana scythe. However, her mana dematerializes as soon as she swings her weapon. Completely vulnerable, a simple slap sends her flying back and crashing into her ally. Ray cried out as he watched them immediately get rendered out of commission. Haru apologizes for allowing things to get so far. As the one responsible, he'll be taking the enemy down himself. Summoning his light, he binds Kronos with golden chains of restraint. The execution is perfect, and he's confident that the sealing is successful. However, the smile just won't leave the enemy's smile. Again, he dispels the magic and frees himself from bindings. It was unbelievable for the mages, and it seems that their options were running out. They were cornered, and they were all going to die if this continued. The shadow recreated Kronos from Ray's memories, which explains his terrifying power. Realization hits him, and he gets an idea if all that is true. With this, he tells Haru to leave things in his hands. Back during their first meeting, all he could do was run away or accept death. If he does the same thing now, then there is no point in regressing and working so hard. He leapt forward without a trace of fear, knowing the enemy must be taking the forms of monsters through a skill. In that case, he should be able to work his own ability and steal it. Touching the target's body, he steals the shadow's copying skill and backs away. It stood still for a moment, trying to figure out what happened, and suddenly screamed in anger as his body began to vaporize. The enemy had been defeated. Meanwhile, Haru stood and stared in shock, unable to understand what he just saw. Was Ray always like that? And who in the world was he really? 3 days later, he and Yuri were in a throne room, kneeling with a report for the Blue King, who sat expectantly on the throne. Standing in a long hallway, Yuri waited in silence. Her companion arrives late, and Haru sheepishly explains that he had something to take care of. Walking ahead, they casually talk about the recent incident in the dungeon. At the end of it all, he's lucky that Ray forgave him after all the groveling and apologizing. Speaking of the young mage, he turned out to be much better than the Yellow King expected. If he didn't, then their boss wouldn't have taken so much interest. They enter the throne room together, excusing themselves for taking so long. The Blue King, Hojo, joyfully smiled at the two and told them to relax as they did well. Regardless, they still apologize and explain that they just returned from a dungeon. He understands their situation, having just returned from 10 different countries himself. There's nothing much they can do about it, as the association lacks talented mages like them. In fact, his recent trips were all missions to conquer dungeons. Hojo then notes the news about Ray clearing Ikebukuro and is impressed by the boy's feat. This may sound condescending, especially since he just defeated a bunch of similar ones on his own. It feels as though he's in a realm above humans. Moving on and getting down to business, he asks the two to tell him about Ray. The discussion goes on for a while, as there's much to tell about the young man. Like the others, the Blue King is surprised and amazed by his capabilities. Haru says he's on the level of S-rank mages, if not even stronger. The boy has a good battle sense and has the ability to steal skills. That actually isn't all, but Yuri feels like they don't have the right to share every detail. Since he's such an amazing mage, Hojo can't help but want to meet him. With this, he gives them one last request. In the association, Ray and Aya are praising each other for doing such a great job. They then wonder about their other member, who couldn't come due to an urgent matter. Just then, Hinata urgently called out upon seeing them. With a grim expression, she wonders what in the world he did this time. Still stuttering, she says the Blue King was asking for him and wants to talk. Sparing each other the explanations, the two head to the throne room for the requested audience. Ray is surprised as he lays eyes on Hojo, who acknowledges him with an observant smile. Before the regression, the mage was known as the King among Kings. He was his ardent fan back then, even keeping himself updated on the King's latest achievements. As one of the true leaders of people, every word he spoke touched souls. All the mages wanted to be like him, even Ray. Unfortunately, the Blue King perished when another dungeon collapsed and wreaked havoc. Fighting monsters and taking charge of the evacuation, he became a hero who saved millions. But why would such a person call a newbie like him? Understanding his confusion, Yuri stepped forward and volunteered to explain. He's surprised to see his friend there. Haru's presence was understandable, but why her as well? The two of them are searching for talented individuals, as members of the Order of the Holy Staff. It's something people have heard of, as the elite organization of the Blue King. Hojo was the one who asked for their assistance with the dungeon, and placed Haru as an observer. He didn't help out much with clearing, as he needed to see how strong he was. Meanwhile, Yuri joined the group because it sounded interesting to her. Ray has thoroughly impressed the king, who now wants to invite him into their ranks. With that said, its very existence must be kept a secret from everyone he knows. As the strongest among the kings, he asks the young mage for the reason he became a mage in the first place. Looking back at it, he thinks about how much he looked up to and admired the man before him. Kay looked down on him and wanted that reality to change. Those were the reasons before, but now his bigger goal is to defeat Kronos. To do that, he has to become the strongest being in the world. Hojo clarifies, if he wants to become the king of all colors, and even stronger than himself. The others look on expectantly. In the world before the regression, even the King of Kings couldn't defeat the god of time and space. Ray confirms his goal to become more powerful than all of them. Hojo smiles, completely satisfied with his answer. In this case, he suggests that the boy work with the apostles first. They're surprised by the suggestion, not expecting it at all. It'll certainly benefit him, and even help them reach the heights of magecraft. With this, they walk through the association halls and arrive at a large room. As the mechanical doors opened, Ray stared in amazement as he faced an elite group of mages, directly reporting to the Blue King. The bunch was a mix of different and strong personalities, but their power was not questionable at all.